Hello, and thank you so much for making time. It is not a hidden, fact that the Republic of Ghana will yet again carry out a national population and housing census from the 28th of June to as long as it will take them to cover a chunk of the country, or all of it if that is possible. So we know the demographics and numbers in terms of the people who are living within the borders of the Republic of Ghana. Of course, we should all be interested. And that is why we are trying the little we can to mobilize the Ummah to take part in this national population and housing census. And we have in the studio today a very charismatic and well-spoken gentleman who took part in the counting, call him an enumerator, if you want, in the 2010 population and housing census. And he's here to share his experience with us. He's in the person of Islamaila Nii Nortey. Sir, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Islamaila, how was it like in 2010? How did you hear about recruitment? And what orientation did the statistical service take you through before they dispatched you onto the ground to do the field work of counting people?
Oh, well, we were with a couple of friends, and then we happened to hear that the statistical service is recruiting enumerators for the population and housing census. So we applied, and then fortunately I was selected. I don't know if they were also selected, but after some months we were called to tender our documents to the office, which we did, and then we went through I wouldn't call it a series of interviews, but a couple of interviews, and then we were selected. And then some time later we were called for a 7 days training, and then from there we were dispatched to the field.
What documents did you submit for you to be accepted as an enumerator? And did they stipulate the level of education you should have had in 2010?
Yes, I think it's from diploma and higher, but most preferably they preferred GES teachers who were later tend to become the supervisors for the whole program. But you tender in your CV as usual and then an application letter.
So SHS leavers at the time were able to apply, or you had to have, had a diploma?
SHS were considered at a point, but most preferably from diploma, HND, and then a degree.
Okay. So you applied online at that time, 2010? Was it online or you applied manually?
We applied manually. Okay. Yeah, you tender in your CV manually. So we did ours at the, near the Independence Square. They have an office there where we tendered our CVs, and then we were recruited.
The 7-day orientation, where did it take place?
It depends on your district. Every district had its own orientation and their location. So ours was at the St. Mary's Senior Secondary School, that's for Ablikuma South.
And yes. What went into the orientation, Ismail?
They take you through the questionnaire. Thank you. You were taken through the questionnaire, and then most importantly the areas, the mapping, and then how to establish the rapport between yourself and then your interviewee, so that they will get to understand what you are doing, because we are living in a country where some parts of the country you go and then most of the literacy levels are very low. So you go there and then they are like, are you ECG people in disguise, or are you this or that? So you have to establish, they take you through a series of trainings so you'll be able to handle the whole program professionally.
Did they put you in areas you were domiciled in, or you would be taken from one part of Accra to another? Maybe you couldn't speak Ghana, and you were taken to the coastal areas of Accra.
And to serve your advantage, it's best if you do it where you are domiciled.
What was the culture in 2010 within the Ghana Statistical Service? Did they place you where you?
Yes, they will post you, especially where you choose to. But they will give you options to choose 2 more districts, preferably where you would want to go if you don't happen to get to be where you are domiciled.
So
but
in 2010, you were living where in Accra? Where did you do the counting?
I was in Mamprobi, and I did it in Mamprobi.
You did it in Mamprobi, the same place?
Yes, please.
Okay. So you counted people you actually were familiar with, some of them, not all of them?
Not all of them, not all of them, but some you are familiar with, but most of the people you are not familiar with.
And what were the challenges you faced, even though you operated within your comfort zone, Mamprobi in 2010?
Some of the challenges had to do with the mapping zones, because on their map you may have a demarcated area with supposed names, but you get to the place and sometimes either the name has changed or the street's name is not there, or the structure for identifying the particular place you're going happens not to be there anymore. So you just have to find your way out to just improvise, and then if you are familiar with the area, you just have to go around the thing and then do your own mapping.
Islamaila, I want you to be very candid with me. Were there times you and your friends, the team you were with, would go to House A and then jump the second house to go to the third one? Were there times you skipped houses?
I didn't want to do that because in my team, it was more like a competition. So everyone wants to deliver his or her best. So in my case, I didn't do it. But we heard stories of people having to skip places because they couldn't handle it. It was hectic.
Hectic as in no car would take you around. If you had to cover a 1 kilometer radius, the team would be, and houses in Ghana are usually in a cluster
form.
So I want to know, would you move from house to house, or you'd say, oh, we are tired, or it's getting dark, let's jump 5 houses and go to the 6th? Was that word spread in other teams, if not in your team in particular, that people were jumping houses?
Interestingly, the work started in the night. We started working at night because it was on the 26th of September, if I can remember, and that's when the supposed picture was taken. So we were dispatched out in the night. So it will make you get used to working at night, because sometimes you go in the morning and then there's no one at home. You'd have to go home and come back at night to continue your work.
But population night, as we heard during the conference, that was organized by BPI, the British Council, and it was addressed by one of the deputy government statisticians, Mr. Combat, is in charge of services. He said population night is meant for people on transit. So people like VVIP, people like the airports and all that. Because at night after dinner, families are cobbled together, having a good time. Why do you knock at 8 p.m. to say in the name of population census you are here to count them?
Well, that was what we were told by then, that you have to go out the day the picture was taken. So I set off around 6 p.m. and then started my work around the Choco police station area.
Alone?
Yes, alone.
No security, nothing?
No, nothing.
And what were the gadgets you were given?
A file.
You only had your
questionnaire, a pen, your uniform, a round neck t-shirt, a cap, and then an ID card.
And people got hostile sometimes. People who didn't trust the process got hostile.
Yes, because the publicity was very low, and those who are not used to TVs were like, we don't know what is going on. But as I said earlier, we were trained in a way you establish a good rapport, you introduce yourself very well to the person, and then before you could be, sometimes you go and like, Master, anytime, just go, and then some people refused, like, I won't do it. And there's nothing you can do.
Did you have to swear an oath of truthfulness?
Yes, we did.
Because that night you were alone, there was no supervisor.
We did.
If
we
you
did.
behaved well, would you guarantee every other person behaved well, conducted themselves?
It depends on the individual and then the work schedule. As I said earlier, it was very hectic. Very, very hectic because you would have to walk. If you are not lucky and you happen to get a very big demarcation, then you have to walk through the clusters to make sure you enumerate each and every house.
How many houses did you cover the first night?
Wow, do not say. I think I did about 13 houses on the first night.
And you started
around 6. I ended around 10 something.
Okay, so for over 4 hours you covered only 13 houses?
Yes, sir. Because the questionnaire was very...
And then Islamaila, that would be a tiny fraction of any part of the country. 13 houses wouldn't make even a block or 2 blocks within an area.
It depends on the number of households you have in the house.
You were in a densely populated
yes.
area or a sparsely populated?
A densely populated area, Choco, if you know Choco. So you enter a house and then you have about 6 or 7 households within a compound. Yes. So by the time you are through with one compound, you're almost exhausted. So I did about 13 compounds.
And you speak Ga?
Yes, you speak Ga. To help me.
But Ismaila, did you have a sense some of the rooms had people, but you were not able to cover the rooms in each of the 13 houses?
Oh, yes. Especially with households where you have an old lady or an old man who can probably, can hardly remember most of the people, especially their ages, what they do. And then so sometimes they have to try and guess ages or the kind of work they do. Sometimes they have, because you have to get the information.
So the whole thing, the margin of error, I'm sorry to say, Ismaila, would be very high. It's guesswork.
You can't outstrip it, but I wouldn't say it's constituted to much of the work done, because you want to get the information, because the questionnaire is in the form that if you try to guess something or just write something on it, you may get entangled on your way forward, because there are skip patterns. So if you don't do it accurately, the skip pattern will just block you out. Yes, they will definitely know there's a guesswork. Yes, so you have to try your best. You have to try, because your supervisors are there and they are very strict. So they go through each and every questionnaire, and then you'll be at home and then they will call you to come and correct an error. So that means you'd have to go back to where you did your work and then make the necessary corrections.
Maybe beginning to wrap up this interview, do you remember some of the things on the questionnaire?
Yes. It starts with the biodata, your name, your age, the work you do, where you were on the census night. But I had a little bit of problem or difficulty with that part of the question, because someone can't, maybe 2 or 3 weeks into the exercise, someone can't remember where he or she was on that particular night. So they'll be like, I think I was here, I think I was there. And then it mostly happened to those who work at night, and probably husbands who run shift systems with their wives. That's most of the problems that we had. And then some of the skip patterns too were a bit difficult to handle. But I believe, we did our best. Our best.
And then with the Muslim or religion, or the category for religion, for Muslims, did you have Muslim, Christian, traditionalist, or under Islam, you had Orthodox Muslim and Ahmadi Muslim?
I think under Islam we had Muslim and Ahmadi, and that's one thing I didn't understand, because an Ahmadi is a Muslim by creed. So where lies the segregation? What's the meaning for that Ahmadi and Muslim? And then, Ghana is classified as a secular state, but most people say Christians are more than Muslims. I always ask the criteria for selection, because does it mean being born in a Christian home makes you a Christian even if you don't go to church? because you speak to people and they're like, oh, I don't go to church, but under religion, they still want to be classified as a Christian. So I say, is that the only criteria, or what is the baseline for making a person a Christian? If that is what is being used, then I don't think Christians are more than Muslims. Yes.
I see.
Because nobody wants to be tagged as non-practicing or a traditionalist.
Islamaila, this is really an eye-opener, and I believe we will interact some more. But from where I sit and what I'm hearing now, I dare say the level of deficiency in whatever figure we are given would be very high.
Very high, trust me, very high. Very high. So if you can remember, I asked the government statistician that day that is it an approximation that approximately this is what we have, or they have a concrete figure that this is what we had. So I believe probably this year's population housing census, some of these challenges will be corrected, or in the questionnaire there may be some changes that will probably bring out an effective figure this year. We are hoping so. But trust me, I asked him, or I told him that there were areas where we couldn't finish, and then we were supposed to do a mopping exercise, that you go back, you'll be given 2 weeks to go back and then continue. But I think with time it had to do with the financing of the whole program, so we couldn't continue.
And how was, maybe finally, what was the remuneration like for the 3 weeks? You worked for 3 continuous weeks?
I think for a month.
For a month?
Yes.
And were they paying you a daily wage? Or they said, okay, we'll give you this amount of money, an X amount of money after the whole exercise? Did the money come in time? Or
it was one figure, like we'll give you this amount of money. But I think through the exercise, a part of it came, I think. And then after, the rest came. Sometimes we are used to.
So in terms of motivation, you think you were motivated enough while on the ground?
Yes. That by then, that amount was okay for someone who is probably not working or something. It's okay for you.
So
but I think
you're not driven by passion. You didn't have a job.
But as time goes, you would love, because I've worked with them twice, and then I think it keeps getting better. So we hope it will get
twice
better.
As in 2010.
And we did the IBES business census with them. I also did it with them. It was far better than the 2010 census.
Okay. Our own brother, Islamaila Nii Nortey, sharing his candid views about the population census in 2010 and what we should expect come June this year, 2020. We hope to keep you enlightened on the process. Do stick and stay with us all the time. Bye-bye.